Hello, my cute little chickpeas. I'm so excited that we're here today. We have Michael Perez in the house, and I'm so excited because he's like my big brother and gives me all the relationship advice. And I know you guys love when I have men on here to get a peek inside of the masculine brain. And Michael is one of those humans that he's walked through so many different parts of his life and shares about it, and really is someone that I can ask questions about with my own dating life and certain things, and I genuinely respect his opinion on it. So I wanted to bring him on and dive deep. And he is also a very high achiever, speaks too fast, thinks very quick. And so this, you might want to not 2x this podcast because we both talk really fast. But it works. And I'm so excited that you're here. And before we dive into anything, on every interview that I have, the podcast is called Healing to Happy. And so I always like to ask my guests, what are you currently healing your way to happy on?
Wow, that sounds like it should be at the end of it. I'm healing to happiness. The current thing, probably for me, is learning more about myself as I am in a new relationship. Um, One of your friends, amazing woman, uh, 36 years old. I'm having to look at things and just okay, hey, like there's things that I need to grow as you date a different caliber of woman.
Hmm.
Not to say anything against anybody in the past, but I'm healing through some things in myself that never came out or may have came out and not an issue for somebody in this new relationship. And it's just a lot of self-reflection,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I like to say the person that you were, that you've been, the person you were to get you to who you are today, you don't have to continue being. So
Mm-hmm.
the person that went through I've had a couple of girlfriends in my life, and the person that went through them and the healing I did after each one, you always reflect on a certain moment after a breakup, like, what did I do wrong in this relationship? And you try to define it to one thing, and then you fix that issue, and then you date somebody else. And what I've noticed in myself is I always date the opposite of the girl I dated before. I'm like, oh, this girl was a lawyer and X, Y, and Z. So you go and date the girl that's like more feminine. So it's like you always try to, but you forget the things that were in the partner that were prior that you loved, because you wanted to find, like, you went towards the things that you were lacking in your past relationship. Maybe you want a more intimate, more feminine man, and you go from like a toxic masculine, and you go too far, and you're going, this guy. So um, I've kind of realized that at my age, and so I went to a woman that has everything that I need, and I found her, moved across the country for her, and now you're with the caliber woman that is meant for the caliber man you are, and it's not, you're not the perfect guy anymore.
You're not on a pedestal and it's not
Yeah.
working the
So,
way
so
that
I'm
you
like,
thought it
like,
is. What
like,
the heck?
like me, I did something wrong. What do you mean? I
What do
love
you
you,
mean?
and so um, I'm definitely reflecting daily, and I'm an overthinker a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
not in a negative way. I don't go deep. I overthink, like I need to specifically identify something to change. I can change really quickly or grow. I don't want to say change. So I have to like, okay, what made me do that? And I have to like really overthink and figure out the whole process. Like, oh, like, and find the negative point. Because when you're someone that walks with God and believes and has good intentions, like I don't do anything maliciously. So it's like I'm not like trying to hurt, like lying intentionally. Like you don't do anything. So it's like
Yeah.
you gotta find like why did I phrase that in that way, or why did I like not mention that, right? Or why does that like make me feel some type of way when your partner doesn't mean the way? So that's kind of where I'm healing through, not taking things personal for my partner, and like it doesn't matter that your partner is 20% one day or 50% one day. Like you don't let your emotions affect who you are today. So it's like daily I'm letting my partner's emotions affect who I am for that day. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm healing through. And I'm like, dude, just you gotta look at your girlfriend like, baby, you can be sassy. I love you. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna be okay, and just walk it off. Don't have to dive into you don't have to dive into every single problem every single day, and it just
Yeah.
becomes draining.
Exhausting. Oh my God, there's so many pieces in that we are probably going to dive into today because I think it's all helpful. But before we dive in, can you introduce yourself to our community? Who is Michael
Hi, my name is
Perez?
Michael Perez. I'm a serial entrepreneur, thoroughbred. I've had a marketing agency for going on 12 years now, I think 11, 12 years. Um, 36, I invest in quite a few things: real estate, crypto, the stock market. I'm a part, I own some gyms in Nashville with some other guys. Um, so I invest in different things on the health and fitness space. I take my relationship with God first over anything, and I've met the love of my life now at 36 years old, and I'm excited to marry her and have some kids. But doesn't mean it's going to come easy.
That's what
I've
we're going to talk
accomplished
about
all the
today.
things in my life. I've accomplished all the goals that I had in my life. Not to say that I'm not still ambitious or there's other goals I want to do, but now I just look for being a father and having a family
Yeah.
and
What was that
building.
like? Like, there's, because I know we've spoken about this, but there's this part within men where it's like, I need to be the provider. I need to achieve all these things. I need to go after this stuff. I need to be the top 1%. I need to be elite. I need to go on this thing. What was that journey, that like switch in you that was like, money is not enough? Like, it really is family and partnership that made you start to pivot and focus on that.
I'm lucky enough to hit certain goals. I kept making goals and hitting them. And what I realized at a certain point in my life, it didn't matter how much alcohol I drank or how much money I made or what number of girls I was dating, or like didn't matter what things I was doing of the world. Let's say, if you don't believe in God, that's okay. But like I was chasing um, worldly things, and when I found like the more money I reached, the more problems I had because I was sacrificing other things in my life and ignoring other things I should have worked on for money. And then you get the money, and like, what do? You have no respect for it.
Yeah.
So um, I would say that I was probably scared to be a father because of my relationship with my father. Great man, just we grew up rough, and I was always scared. I don't want to pass on the traumas and triggers that I got from my parents. So I'm one of six siblings. Every one of them has been married and had kids. Some half of the nearly all of them are divorced, right? Um, Except one. Some of them have remarried, but again, they all had kids. I'm the only one that's never been married, never kids, because I saw the problems that each one of them had, and I thought the only issue they had was money. So I chased that, built a business, and did that, traveled, and so yeah, I just reflected back like I was just scared. I was scared to make those last relationships work. Um, I was scared to have to. I was scared to grow in those relationships, and just in the end, I was coming from fear, didn't know it.
Mm-hmm. And something that I like often talk about in my community is like, we'll meet like women of high value, we'll meet men of a certain stature, and it's, oh, he'll understand one day. Like, it's not just money. And like, we wait. It's like this, like, I'm going to be a sitting duck until you figure that out. Cause we hear these stories about eventually you're going to tap out and eventually doing these things.
Yeah,
But you can't, like, that's a decision you made on your own. That wasn't like, oh, I met the woman and then I slowed down. It was like, I know because of who you're dating. That was something you had already put into place before.
yeah, yes. So after my last relationship, I made a deal. I was like praying about it. I was like, I will never take my own health, my relationship with God, or with the person I'm dating over my business and how much money I make anymore. And I'm sure out there there's some men that won't like they'll let the relationship go for the business, but to me, I've never had an issue making money, but like I've had an issue keeping like healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that because I want to partner, right? I don't just want a wife and I want to be a husband. I want to be a husband and I want a wife. So I'm not looking for a girl just to come home to that's going to cook and clean and then just be a yes woman. Right? I want a partner to build an empire with. And you can only go so far on your own. Like, so I realized that like I only can go so far on my own and I need God in my life. I did that. I continue daily on that relationship. And I wanted a partner that can help me take the next steps in my life intellectually, spiritually, emotionally.
Which is so funny because then you meet who you're dating. And it's like one of the things where it's like, you're not going to just get by being, the king on the throne. Like, it's someone that is going to challenge you and they're going to push you and they're going to be like, no, that doesn't work for me. There's going to be this, there's going to be that, versus what I know, what we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, you were used to leading in a certain caliber and having a certain stature. And so what has that been like, where it's like this, when you find the one, right? And they challenge you and they push you, and it's a different type of relationship because it's challenging. It's not someone that is a yes man, yes woman kind of thing. It's an actual partnership. What has that journey been like?
It's been tough. So it's been great. Obviously, like you know our story. We
Yeah.
were appointed by close friends, best friends. So it's been great. But when you're dating somebody, and I'm sure for her too, when you're dating somebody that's a certain caliber person, I think we both say this. It makes you have to look at things. Like if you're dating somebody, like not anything against any of my exes and not against her
Hmm.
ex. Like you're dating something and then you get all those relationships and you're like, oh, I'm healed. Like you heal yourself and you get through stuff and you find peace at yourself and you love, and then you date someone that's on your caliber in certain aspects, but others not, right? But like then it's like, oh, I have to be more this. Like, oh, like I didn't, like maybe I lacked communication in my past relationship, but they didn't demand higher communication. And I heard this one time in a podcast or interview, they talked about it. Like maybe you're in a relationship with somebody and maybe you acquire an 8 in communication, but they're a 4.
Hmm.
And so like you guys keep arguing, and then he's like, "Well, babe, I promise I'll be a better communicator." And he goes up to an 8. But you have to understand that his natural instinct is to be at a 4. So if he goes to an 8, he's exerting himself. He's not. It's not him. It's unnatural for him to overly communicate things that he doesn't normally do. And so then he starts to come back down. And then you come to him and you're like, "Well, you said you're going to be a better communicator. You said this, whether it's intimacy or whatever it could be in a relationship." But it's like he's a 4. He needs to work on himself to become the 8 or a 6, a little bridge the gap. And so what I'm finding in this relationship is the communication I've had in past relationships was a 7, but the current relationship requires a 10. I'm
Hmm.
like, what do you mean? Like, you want a play-by-play? And it's like, no, it's like, to me, it feels like it's unnatural, but like, she requires that, right? Like, I put my head down, I'm a grinder. Like,
Hmm.
I don't express, so it's forcing me to like, oh, Michael, you're a 10 at a businessman, you're a great man, like, you're all these things a higher level, but then there's certain things that you need to step it up in. And I've just
Yeah.
never been forced to.
Yeah. Something you sent me one time was when like a man doesn't choose you, it's not necessarily that he's not choosing you. It's just he's not choosing the man that he has to step into and that's required of him to be of value of that person.
Yes, yes.
How, because I know so many women have that, like you said it so perfectly, where it's like, oh, maybe like they have this fucking conniption in their brain, and I've had this where it's like there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me because relationships don't work out, maybe my standards are too high, maybe there's this, maybe there's that, versus what you just described is no, the right person is going to rise with you. And so I kind of want to speak to that, like anyone that's in that space that is like, oh, my standards are too high and this isn't working for me, what would you say to them?
Two things. They just don't want to step up. Yeah, they don't want to. It's self-reflection. Like, we're so we as men are, and I think women sometimes too, but I'll speak for the men. We're unintentionally selfish.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a man will self sabotage a relationship, and like you guys are like, well, why did he like cheated? Like, why did he do that, or why did he do this, or why did he walk away? But like we sabotage because we don't think we're worthy of you in the first place,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think a lot of women, like, they go through this downpour and like, why me? Like, why I was a good person? I don't deserve this. It wasn't that. It wasn't you. Like, he went out and cheated because he wasn't worthy of keeping you. He didn't did this like when you guys got an argument, he didn't call you because he knew he was in the wrong. And it's tough, right? It's tough to like swallow your pride and like, you know, in to grow in front of a partner. It's like it's almost like I know a lot of men that when they see their partner losing respect, like and acting a certain way towards the things that they do, and they're like, "Oh, cool, like this relationship's over," right? And it's like we want to talk about how you reacted to something, not what we did to meet your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's the case in a lot of situations where you're dating a guy and it's all great, right? And in the beginning of the dating's amazing, right? It's really easy to court you, right? Like I gotta open your car door. I love doing that. Buy your dinner. I can do that and all that. But then it's like, okay, hey, you have to stimulate your partner intellectually, right? You have to be emotional and you have to be vulnerable. And we don't like some men just don't know how to do that. But there's some women
Mm-hmm.
that don't. Like even certain things I
Do you
struggle
feel
with.
like do you feel like dating apps fuck that up? Like it's something that I constantly think of where it's like because it's so limitless, the potentiality of the people that you can meet. And I mean as like someone of your stature, like your options are limitless, like you can go out, like you have the high value principles, like that kind of thing. Do you feel like because that vulnerability shows like that side of, oh, I kind of suck at this part and I don't want to look at the part that I suck at, so might as well break up with you so I can go find back that lusty kind of feeling, and I can swipe and I can do this, and like not realizing that the actual whole point of this lifetime is to go deep with someone, not go wide with everyone.
So yes, so my company, I specialize in data and consumer behavior. So I
Mm,
actually was involved in the data of a dating app for festivals, and I've looked at a couple of things and played around that space. The thing you don't realize is, oh, to rephrase, it's not what you just thought. It's not limitless options because you don't have limitless options. You have
mm,
the fake persona of it, right? So it's you're swiping at a bunch of people. Only a few of that, like only a certain demographic are going to match with you that you like. But even them, they're judging you off your profile. That's not who you are, right? Like that's not who you are. You want to put there, oh, I want an emotionally intelligent man. I want this. I want a successful man, 106 figure, and you put these title things, right? But those traits that you look for in a man come with other traits, right? Like you want a guy like you maybe were in a relationship with a man that struggled financially, so you're like, oh, I want him to have money. Dating a man with money comes with certain things, right? Work or um, like I'm what is it? I can sustain like fight or flight. Like I can always be
mm-hmm,
excessive and it doesn't affect me. It affects my partner. So you think there's all these options, so you always think it's the bigger, better complex, but you don't, right? Even the ones you match with aren't your options, because in honesty, it affects men and women more women than men. Dating has to do because you match with men that are out of your league. I'm sorry to tell you that, like not you specifically, but women, because men swipe to everything.
mm-hmm,
So I don't know if you know this. One of the trips, anybody with money, guys that have money, they'll buy the premium and they just do this. They'll swipe to 300 women. Then we'll go through the matches. So you guys are thinking like, oh, I matched with these four guys. No, you didn't. There's a persona of it that you did,
yeah,
right? Because they don't want to go. They're not reading profiles. They're swiping through to everybody, and then they're going to go through and unmatch the ones that don't match them based on profile. Because then you're reading profiles all day long. So they want to go through. Okay, let me unmatch anybody that's not attractive enough. Then go through the profiles. Oh, she's a vegan. That doesn't work for me, right? Oh, she's atheist. Doesn't work for me. So that's what they're doing. So it's interesting, like that dating apps is such a problem right now, in the way that you just asked that question, because even the men that you're matching and going dates with may not be in your caliber or your league, because the type of man that'll go on a date with you or sleep with you is not the type of man you can sustain. There's a difference.
yeah,
Okay. And the problem with women today is they'll go out and they'll hook up with attractive celebrity basketball player, very wealthy man that picked them up in a Ferrari, but the caliber of men that they're in their league, then they're like, oh, I won't date that guy. Like he works there, he works 9 to 5. So do you. You live in a 4 bedroom house with 9 girls. Like,
yeah,
so not to say that there's an issue with that. It's
yeah,
just have realistic expectations, and the best way to do that, I think, is what Jay Shetty said. It's make a list of the things you want in a partner, realistic things, and become that. So if you're requiring your partner to make 6 figures, what do you add value to that? And it's okay to date somebody that doesn't have 6 figures and you don't, but make that list and look at what you're lacking. When I
mm,
did that for myself before my current girlfriend, I was a hypocrite. I required 30% of the things I required my partner, I did not do. And I'm like, and I had to reflect on that. And I kept writing it out and rewriting it. And I got it down to the realistic expectations. I can't require a partner to have under a certain amount of partners, right? Because I can't go back to turn back time. So there's certain things we need to get out of our head that about dating. So that's kind of my thought on it. Sorry, I went
mm,
over it, but
mm,
it's getting realistic today, and that doesn't mean settling. Right? It's you're never going to meet the perfect person. You're going to become the perfect person with somebody, and so you meet this guy, and he's like, pick which stuff you're willing to accept at the beginning and grow with them.
mm-hmm. And I mean, it also brings back the responsibility piece. And I think that's the part that's missing in the conversation, that is missing of, you say, and I see this in my communities a lot, where it's like, you say you want a man that makes a lot of money. That's fucking fine. Do that, because one, dive into why you want that. Like, are you in a damsel in distress vibe, or is that just you're a high performer and you need someone to match that level, so you have different conversations and it's just different. And there's nothing like, this is something that I mean, you've seen me walk through this, where it was just like, something's wrong with me because my brain works differently and I have to do something, blah blah blah. And it's like, you're just dating in the wrong league, Laura. Like, just, it's fine, and all these kind of things. But it also, something I have to talk to them about is, if you're dating someone at a certain level, you are competing with his work, and you can't compete with his work. It's always going to come first. You can't compete with the fact that he has a dysregulated nervous system, and you just kind of have to accept that, and you have to love him for it, and you have to be his piece. Like, that's a thing where it's like, you have to have the trade-offs, where a lot of the women that are in this soft, flowy, feminine movement fucking thing, where they're like, I want this strong masculine man. And then they're like, but I want to go on retreats, and I want to sleep in the morning, and I want to do these things, and I want to do that. And I was like, those two things don't come together. I am sorry. If you want a man at a certain level and you want to be the top 1%, he is, you have to be that wife at home that is fucking hyping him up and not being annoying that he's going to be working majority of the fucking time, but it's because he's doing it for you. It's not like he's, and like, the more you can be his peace at home, the more he's going to want to come home to you. But if you're being fucking annoying about the fact that no, you're not prioritizing me, he's not going to want to come home to that. Like, there's trade-offs that I think we don't talk about enough, about going after quote unquote elite men, high level men, enough.
Yes, you're so right. Oh gosh, we could talk about this all day. If you want a high caliber man with a certain amount of income because you're struggling financially, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a problem, right? If you're content and you're chilling on your own, that's where you seek it. So you need to. It doesn't mean you have to be financially like completely and out of debt free. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, if you're living with your mother and you have a job and you boy goes, then like, it's okay to want to date a 6 figure guy, right? But like, yeah, like, that man requires something in his partner. And this is, and I know you've seen this before with like Andrew Tate, like in those guys,
Mm.
those videos. It's like, they'll ask a girl, what do you require in your guy? Over 6 foot, cool. Make 6 figures, cool. He's decently good looking. And it ends up being 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 2 or 3% of men in America that are single at your age group that's over 6 foot, make 6 figures. Like, and then my phrase that is, yes, you guys all deserve that, but in my mind it's like, who are you to deserve in the top 1%? Please tell
Yeah.
me, by all means. And don't tell me you're in your feminine and you do this and the thing. Like, these tangible things. And I'm not saying there's no value being in a woman, but
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you sleep with your man. Sleeping with your man, every woman sleeps with their man. So take
Yeah.
it off the table. What do you bring? Oh, I bring my own money. Cool. We don't give a shit.
Yeah.
We don't give a shit. I promise you today. Okay. I promise you, I make 6 figures a month. I promise you, if you came to me with $1 million trust fund, I don't care. I demand respect. I demand certain things in this relationship. And a lot of times when you come with that in your mind, you come with some level of audacity. And that's why you see a lot of very wealthy families, they date each other's kids
Yeah.
because it's certain types of thing. But and I've seen people like men that don't make a lot of money date up to them because of growth. But yeah, if you're looking for a 6 figure man, be okay that he's not going to help you financially at a certain point, because when he does, it's added value.
Yeah.
Okay, you want a man to add value to you, because then when the relationship is based upon the amount of money he makes and the way you look, it's transactional. So I'm like, oh
We've had,
cool, I'm relationship with that, cool. Like, I don't want to romance you for sex. I want on demand, and
yeah.
that's a problem, because then it's like after a certain point, it's like, wait, it's like, no, like, you're dating me for my money, I'm dating you for the way you look. And so if
It's
you
the same match. Like, I've spoken to so many men about this, where they're like, women are only dating me for my money, and I'm like, well, what are you looking for in women? And they're like, yeah, I kind of date like the Instagram models. I'm like, well, that's kind of a fucking match, baby. Like, it just kind of
I went
works.
through that phase, and I tell you, it's not the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say how many followers somebody has or their content means anything, but yeah, if you're dating them strictly on the way they look and how much money he has, then
Yeah.
it's interesting, right? It's I know how the mind works. You could see a guy on the street, but oh, he's average, and then he's a professional baseball player.
Hmm.
We subconsciously think he's more attractive, so you're like,
Yeah.
or she's more attractive. Like, oh wait, like, she's a model, but she looked average, and now, oh, I can see that. I can see that. Or she's average, and then you see she has 1 million followers. Oh wait, like, everybody in the world, like, there's 1 million people that like her. Maybe there's something like, and so it's realistic, and what you're looking for in the partner. I look for certain things, like I prefer my partner not to drink. I look for self awareness, emotional intelligence, and a relationship with God over anything. I don't
Mm.
care if my girlfriend sleeps, like the person I'm dating lives with her parents or lives in a studio apartment. Like we don't struggle with money around here. So like I want those traits because I used to date someone like, oh, you another entrepreneur, or I dated a lawyer, or someone that's the way they look, right? But then again, dating a girl the way they look is you have to accept what they're in the gym
Comes
twice a
with
week.
it.
They diet, like they're prepping, and so like I actually don't want to date girls that prep anymore. I don't because I don't want someone that weighs their food and can't go out to dinner with me. Like so, it's like one of my list of things in my dating thing is someone that works out but doesn't weigh their food. It's
Mm-hmm.
in my 15 things I look for in a partner because I just it's something that I dated had in a relationship and I just didn't like the
Yeah.
outcome of it. So it's interesting what things that we end up being in. But yeah, I'd say just looking at my current girlfriend said this once, and like, and other girls have said this, like they don't want to date men that are on working up
Mm-hmm.
in their success journey. And I understand why, because if you dated a guy that's struggling, then you just want like you want like, hey, I want someone that's structured and has their things together. When you're dating a man that has not just that potential, but he's actually doing it, understand that that man will know that you're with him on the journey, not just at the top. When you're dating a man that's already at a certain point, that also comes with certain types of things. He knows
Mm-hmm.
who he is, he knows what he's accomplished, and you acquire certain things. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever been in that case or some of your followers have. It's a way different aspect when a man requires certain things from you, and it's like it'll cause tension. It's like, even if he's doing everything, if you're paying his bills, baby, whatever you want. I'm a yes man for my girlfriend. Whatever you want to buy, baby, go ahead. But like again, I require certain things, and it's not something I'm willing to waver on.
Yeah. Well, especially at a certain level, you have your standards, you have your vision, you've already established so much, right? And so if you're providing these, and I think a lot of women struggle with this. I know I've spoken to so many of them where it's like you want this man to provide, protect, lead, not leave, lead. And you want him to, pay for certain things, do these types of stuff, but you're not willing to submit. You don't get what it means to be a wife. Like you want wifey fucking benefits, but you don't want to pay the wifey duties and
Yeah,
actually do the job of what is required for that. And I get I'm not married, but like the pre-housewife era movement is about that because there's so many fucking women out there saying I want the 1% man. And I'm like, I love that for you, but if you don't become the 1%, and 1% does not mean how much money you make and what you do. And I had to learn this the hard way because I
see how
thought
you
that
work.
because my wounded daddy issues was like, let me earn love. This is let me prove myself. Let me do it. And it's like, men are not marrying me for my money. They are marrying me for how much peace can I give you? Do you feel like a man in my presence? Do I know how to submit when I'm around you? And because we're so defiant in this fucking feminine movement right now, it's this like, no, but this is how I would do it. It's faster, better, stronger when I do it this way. And here's my control and here's my thing. And I'm like, that's not the 1%, baby. That's where you can date a man's potential because he has his mommy issues and he has his things like that. And that's who you're going to attract versus, oh, the 1% is a woman that holds herself in a certain way, has a certain standard of her life, makes her man feel like a man. He's going to get richer just by being in her presence, but she is his peace. Like, and I can't find a better way to describe that, but that's what I've seen a lot with my community and talking to more of men like you, where it's just like, oh, I have my standards. Like, just be a woman, and there's conflict of women being women nowadays.
Yeah, like how far the feminine movement has gone, it's kind of doing you guys a disservice
Yeah.
because you said something a minute ago on a trigger. Oh, I want to make sure I comment on this. Don't just submit to all men.
Mm.
That's something I used to do when I wasn't. I've got a lot of work I still need to do every day. We're always growing. But I used to require a girl to submit, and it's like you submit to a man that's worthy of submission.
Hmm.
That whole thing comes from it's like I submit to God, I leave everything to God, and then a woman submits to me because God's holding me accountable, right? Myself, my moral compass. So don't does it just doesn't mean to submit to anybody. What you really comes down to is create boundaries for yourself, boundaries in the relationship, and you won't ever get hurt if you put boundaries. And I don't want to see this in a weird way, but 98% of the stuff that happens in relationships is your woman's fault.
Mm.
I don't mean that as a point of blame. It's our fault. But what happens is you allow boundaries crossed and things, and then you allow the opportunity to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? If you're like, okay, I'm going to require a guy to call me for the date, open my door, and these things at the very beginning, they'd have to do that, right? If they don't, then you just go on less dates. And you guys think like, oh, I'm getting less dates. No, you're just weeding out the F boys,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if you acquire more from the beginning, you guys, women start to, you guys want to be really chill and cool at the beginning. That's the issue. Like, no, I'm cool. He's got girlfriends. That's cool. He hangs out with his friend. And then as a deeper, long relationship, then you're like, hey, I don't like that. And the guy's like, what do you mean? I've been this way for 3 months. And that's the problem. You're accepting stuff at a very early on phase because you don't want to come across like insecure or demanding, but you're accepting stuff at the beginning. He's not forced to to do things differently with you, and then you try to switch up. Like now you're official. Oh, I don't like that you're friends with her. You sleep with her. I've been friends with her for a year. Oh, I don't like that you do this. I don't like that friend because he cheats on
Yeah.
his girlfriend. Like so, from the very beginning, understand what you're going to require in a partner, and don't let him waver. Because then, as the relationship goes for 3 months, if he starts to switch up a little bit, you nip it in the butt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no. We don't talk that way, right? I don't go 24 hours with no response. I find that it doesn't have to be disrespectful, but there's lack of respect in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. Like, oh, you're so disrespectful. No, there could just be lack of respect, right? You didn't disrespect me by not answering me 24 hours, but I've had this lack of respect because I always respond to you. And so the word sociopath and disrespect and all these things are being thrown around, but it really just comes down to require more as it goes down. Sometimes the guy's a little selfish because you like the guy who's attractive, successful, that comes with some narcissistic traits maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's not a narcissist. He just thinks highly of himself.
Yeah.
And it might be warranted. He might have been a fat kid in high school, and now he trains every day, and now he's a little cocky about it. And like me, worked for 10 years to build a business. Those
Yeah.
come with certain behaviors. So we have to humble ourselves, obviously, but these things all come together. Like when you're dating somebody, if you I call it pre-qualifying. I know I'm jumping around. Pre-qualify the guy before you date, even start talking to him. That's certain things. He's like ask him certain things, certain ways. You don't
Yeah.
have to drill him. You don't have to like be a CIA like drill put because it comes across really weird. Just pre-qualify him. Hey, like, do you believe in God? Hey, what do you do for work? Kind of get some estimates. Then dating them, and then again, just require that you're called a day in advance. Like if they try to hit you up last minute on a date, you even if you're on your couch, I'm busy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like require them because if I know you're a last minute person, you're going to be on the last minute of the roster, right?
Yeah.
It's like so for men these days. So you want to require a plan. You, well, what kind of food do you want? No, make a date, make a plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you start doing these treats at the very beginning, then you don't have to deal with a guy that you're dating for 6 months and he always asks me what I'm doing. We never go out to eat because we like no one wants to know because you didn't require it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Hey baby, like I really like you. And sometimes you might have to like gas the guy up. If it's in this stage of like you don't know if he's like you be you and your feminine, you call the dude up and say, hey look, I really like you. I'd love for you to take me out. I'd love for you to pick a day, Friday, a time Friday or Saturday, and pick a place and take me on that day. That's okay to do that in this modern day.
Yeah.
But you don't require him to plan, pick the spot, pick you up, pay, then you can't require after you're hooking up with him or you guys are official or these things. So that's a
Yeah.
big issue with today is you guys want to be the cool girl, accept things, and then you guys, there's both partners switch up at a certain point.
Yeah.
You guys switch up when you're starting to get like at a certain point, and the guys are like, once we have you, then we're like, oh cool, like we can pump the brakes
Yeah.
on the dating you, and it's something that we all men, even married men, we have to work on. Constantly date your partner,
Yeah.
constantly ask what they're doing emotionally, check on them because we just don't know. Like our minds are on our business, on protection, security, like all these things, and so we forget to check in with our partners and
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's something where I hear it with women where it's like he'll get wifey treatment after like he makes me a wife. And then men will come in and it's like I see it as like a masculine test. They're going to see how little they can get away with in the beginning to like see what you're going to actually respond to and see
not
if
a
that
masculine
gets
test.
away.
It's a
It's
boy
just
test.
yeah, it's a boy test. It's just like, hey, let me see if like this is a requirement for you versus like, nah, I don't fuck with that. But at the same time, something actually Bianca said to me when she started dating Brian, where she was like, I'm gonna make this boy fall in love with me. He's getting first class treatment, like this whole thing. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna fucking adopt that. Like that is true. Versus like, yes, there is certain calibers when you get to certain stages in dating and things like that. Like they don't get full access to fucking everything. But I'm not going to withhold like what I used to do, where I was like, I'm not fucking cooking for them. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Like, you have to earn that stuff until you're in this. And it was like, Laura, what? Like, what protective you're not showing him that you're a fucking woman? Like, what do you mean? Versus like now, I'm like, I'm gonna make your ass fall in love with me. You want to try this? Like, this is what I do. This is how I run my life. Like, here's how it's going. And like that compliment of now what I get from men, where it's like I feel like such a man in your presence, and I feel this and I feel that. I'm like, that's how it should be. Versus, I'm gonna somehow make you jump through hoops, and then I'm gonna switch behavior come 3 months in being like, these are actually my fucking requirements for this job. And it's like, this isn't the job I applied for. I
Yeah,
thought this was easy. Like, you were the cool girl. And it's like, no, I'm
yeah,
not actually.
yeah, exactly. I love that. And it's I think we went through an era too, an era of when men used to jump to those hoops for women.
Yeah.
But the problem is so many times the guys actually go through those hoops because like some men like I can do delayed gratification, I don't mean it immediately,
Hmm.
but like when they jump those hoops and then it wouldn't end good. So now we have this burnt feeling too, and I don't want to say it's not just because you're not a fully masculine man in everything doesn't mean that there isn't a problem with you, right? Like some men are wounded as well, and I know we need to work on our wounds and work on things, but like sometimes it's like that's giving me a feeling like she's saying things a certain way, like so like we want to see too. We don't want to see how far we can specifically get with you without putting in the work, but like it's steps too. My current girlfriend again, like this is not a normal circumstance. I had tunnel vision. I We were on a trip together, and I looked. I was like, "That's my wife." And so the normal guy wouldn't have done what I did. I didn't care what she said. I didn't care what she was doing. If she was talking to somebody else at that time until we were official, like I don't care. Like best of luck. I literally told her I made the best man win, and
Yeah.
I won, right? Because that's my girlfriend, and I'm a marrier. So that not every man will do that. I just saw someone else like there's not outside of one or two things. Like there's nothing stopping me from this, and like it's scary. There's quite a few times in this time I'm like fuck. Like I moved across the country for a certain times. I'm like this could not go well for me. But like in the end, I decided that if I didn't go all in and it didn't work out, I'd blame myself. But if I went all in and it didn't work out, then I'm okay with it. Right?
Hmm.
If it don't work out now, besides the things, I'm like, okay, we're still cool. I love you. Best of luck, right? Maybe in the
Hmm.
future, but we obviously decided that breaking up's not an option.
Yeah.
To death do us part,
Yeah.
aren't we? But yeah, I just decided that like I was okay with not taking stuff personal. Like I took some stuff personal at the beginning. I'm like, it's a wounded person. Women like sometimes you guys are sassy and come with attitude because you want us to step up to a certain caliber to be with you, and we just got to do it. Like, and that's the thing when they say like if you wanted to, you would. Like, I wasn't this way with past exes, but I am this way with her, and so there is a guy out there that's going to run through fires and go through your sassiness and your breakdown, like to get to the point when you guys are in a good place, and then obviously maintain it too. Um, just don't get there and drop, stop working. So,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think with current partner you're like that and you weren't like that in previous relationships?
well, I was a different man. I didn't know
Hmm.
what I didn't know, but I told you, like every girlfriend I had, I kept seeking out some of the things that they lacked in the next one, right? So I was dating a girl that I stopped drinking. We started going to church, and she was a drinker, and so like I was trying to become a grow and be a different man, and there's she didn't want to make those changes. So I decided in my mind the next girl I date has to have a relationship with God and doesn't drink. So the next one I date grew up in a very very religious home and never had a drink or alcohol and very like and very very good relationship with God. She grew up her whole life going to church and goes the rest of her life, and again I forgot that she lacked entrepreneur traits and independent traits. And so I went for the housewife. She basically is in a household where the dad works, the mother's household. Amazing woman. I love their family. But she was basically born like, hey, I want to be a mother. That's the
Hmm.
job she wanted in life. She never wanted to see something else. And so what I forgot with dating a woman like that is there's certain traits that don't come with a type of girl. Right? They don't have no ambitions. Like there's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean that negatively. Her ambitions is being a mother, but there's certain things. So I realized now, okay, this is exactly who I want. And she knocked all those traits.
Yeah.
It was just adjusting some of the things I'm looking for a long term partner because when you don't know those certain things that you require and you're dating somebody, they start like, that's when you look at them like, why don't they do that? Why aren't they like this? Like, why don't they want to do that? Like, and so that's what happened. This last relationship before this one, it reached a point at a year, and it was just like, okay, yeah, like that. There's something missing here. Maybe
Yeah.
like we could have continued on. Not to say we would have been happy, but there's certain things missing. So you can push it out of a partner too. Doesn't mean you have to exit a relationship and find something with him. Like you can bring that out of your partner, male or female, but certain people will not change for certain in certain ways.
Yeah.
And so, my current partner is a savage like me, but she's in her feminine like crazy. I've helped bring a lot of that out. Obviously, she was a entrepreneur as well and very independent as well. So there's traits that come with that. But I'm okay with who this woman is today for me to spend the rest of my life with her. But the exciting thing about that is the longer I continue to be a man that walks with God and be like a good man towards her, the more of a soft feminine woman keeps coming out. And I said this the other day. It's not that she's changing. People are like, oh, these people change. She's not changing. She's just like an onion, and there's like she's all these walls that are there. And so the like you look at her, you knew her before I started dating her.
Mm.
There's a feminine and inner child girl there in there. I just had to break through some of those layers, and I've gotten through that, right? And through
Mm.
that process, it's not for a masculine man. This is not for a weak man. Okay, so it's like if I wasn't capable of doing this and I left, that doesn't mean I'm not a masculine man. It means I'm a little like I'm emotionally weak to handle this. So I have to handle what it takes to go through to knock down walls that another man put up, right? And that's tough because you're you're basically dealing with the repercussions of what someone else did. And I was actually in this current relationship. I was having a moment. I was driving. I'm like, dude, I'm a good man. I try to do this, this, and this. I do everything I can for this woman, and she's blossoming right in front of me. The person I started dating is not who I'm dating today.
Mm.
Amazing woman, and I can't wait to see who she becomes the next 6 months to a year as she becomes my wife and we have kids. But I was driving in my car and I was praying. I'm like I'm dealing with the issues of the partner she was before, and I remember either God told me this or I told myself this, whatever people want to believe. Is immediately I thought in my mind, somewhere out there is a man that's bearing the cross of the stuff that I did to my past exes or another girl.
Mm.
And so I was like, and I said in my mind, this is your cross to bear. And when I heard that, I was like, like every one of my exes is going to date somebody, and they had to be patient and understanding and graceful with her because some of the things that I unintentionally did in that relationship. And I was like, the second I heard that, I was like, cool. So now anything she does at this time, I was like, it doesn't phase me because now I'm not
Yeah.
taking it personal. It's not emotional, right? She's like, so I had to have that moment in this relationship because, again, the story of her. So,
Mm.
but once I accepted that and and that I realized that, like, only a hypocrite would be like upset about it. Like, I'm not upset. Like, she's worth it. This is my cross to bear, and no matter how, like, there's nothing that's going to stop me from making her my wife and having kids. And so I don't care how feisty she wants to get one day or what she wants to say or get,
Yeah.
like again, you go have moments, so don't matter. It's like give me a little kiss on the forehead. I'll be back later, baby.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll get you a
First
snack.
shot, baby. Don't
Okay.
Use your toy. Like it's just, so, and that brings the family now.
Yeah.
Something that I've struggled with in the past. Again, that the man I'm coming to, who I am today, is not reacting to your partner. Like if they're emotional at you for some reason, maybe something you did, like you don't then react to it too. Say,
Hmm.
what did I do to it? Cool. Like, hey, let's. And it's something that again working on this relationship. Just sometimes you'll make a mistake and you didn't intentionally want to make that mistake, and your partner's going to react to it. That's okay. If they overreact to it, not okay, but understandable.
Mm.
But then don't get mad about the way she reacted from the thing that you did. Have some grace and understanding and empathy, right? So it's like, hey, we don't talk to each other that way, but let me fix it, baby, right? Or
Yeah.
whatever it is the case. So
Mm. And it's when someone overreacts, it's always getting curious because their overreaction is from something else that's not the present moment. But even hearing what you just like, that's so healing. to hear from a male lens and in general, because I know so many women, myself included, it's this I'm too much. Like one of my biggest wounds is I'm too much, and that then leads to the abandonment wound of like I'm too much and therefore they leave. And it's like all these things that have happened and the reactive states and these kind of things that do come out in intimate relationships. Like the closer you get, the more you fucking see how wounded you are. Like it's just one of those things. But when someone truly is picking you, they'll recognize that and want to take that responsibility. And the higher caliber of men that I'm getting blessed to be around and to date, I'm seeing more of that, where it's not too much. They actually want to understand it. They want to understand the soft edges. Yes, there's a standard of like, you don't fucking talk to me that way and we don't do this in our relationship, but it's not from a lens of you're broken, what have you. It's genuinely this, I'm in this, so let me fucking understand this. And I love what you said. It's like, and I think I saw this reel one time where it was like, not all exes are bad. I'm someone's ex and I'm not bad. Like it's one of those things. And it's looking at that. And I can now say, like, coming into this dating world and certain people, when I hear wounds, even from the male lens, like when they have protective things and when they have something that's going on, it's like, oh, I want to protect your heart. Like I want to see that soft side inside of you and what's coming up there. And a lot of women, I got asked this today actually on an interview, which was like, women are like, they're tough and they're doing this and they don't know how to submit and they don't know how to do that. And it's like, and like, why do you think that is? And exactly how you described it, my coach described it. It's like, there's this shell that we put around ourselves because we've been let down so many fucking times. The older you get, the more bruised hearts you've had. It's just the way it fucking works. But inside that is actually the soft shell. And only a few people get it. Like my persona is very strong, very like in the leader out in the world, but like my authentic self is shy and quiet. That's my thing. But only a few select number of humans get to actually access that because that's the true feminine. And so when you actually have a partner that can invite you into that, it's feeling safe enough to express it versus, no, I'm going to test him. I'm going to bulldoze him. I'm going to push him. I'm going to do these things that feminine women fucking do because we're like, let me test your masculinity in our toxic little ways. And it's just like, no, like actually understanding the many facets of the human and the partner that you're with is how you actually get to the depth of the relationship that you want. But it is assuming the responsibility of people's past hurt, which I think a lot of people don't want. It's like, oh, you're triggered right now. I don't want to deal with that. The amount of time I went to a speed dating event and the amount of men that said, I don't want to deal with anyone's baggage. Da 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 da. I'm like, then you're gonna. That's why you're here. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It's just. It's
you're gonna be
literally the fucking
right.
place we live in. Like, you have to deal with it, and the fact that you're calling it baggage. Like, you don't want to understand someone and why they do things a certain way. That's why you're fucking here, bro. That's why you're here.
So true. I want to go back to something that you said that this just came to me right now.
What?
Um, when you guys are in your feminine and you're doing like how you are, and this is gonna might ruff some feathers for you too. You got these strong, independent women, and you find a guy who accepts you for that, right? Great, he's an entrepreneur, accepts it, and then you guys are in those roles. You got to realize it's actually a man that accepts you in your masculine, feminine when you're that in that hustle mode is doing you a disservice. A guy that's going to date you when you're that way is not the partner for you,
Yeah.
because what's going to happen is you're going to be a hustler and you're going to be that way. But as soon as you get off the gear and you don't want to work and be a mom, he's going to be like, why aren't you adding value? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you adding that? So finding a guy that accepts you for being that way is going to ultimately be a heartbreak for you, because then you're going to want to be a stay-at-home mom. He's going to be like, oh, you're like, it's over. Like it was 9 months ago. Like you got to like get back to work. He's going to start requiring because that's who you've been. But if you start dating that guy and letting him peel those layers back and let your femininity come out while you're dating, when you by the time you reach those goals, he's made a stay-at-home wife, right?
Mm.
That's what it is. And so I just thought of this right now. Like, yeah, like if he's accepting you when you're in that bad bitch era and that tough girl era, no, it's going to just ultimately end like, or it's going to have some problems throughout the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's exceptions in the rule, but in the end, your goal is your femininity to come out as you feel comfortable with the guy. He's a good man, but then ultimately you're going to want to stay home mom and be feminine. He's going to be like, "What do you mean? This,
Yeah.
like, what about this?" But not to say that there's ways to handle that, but yeah, you want a guy that supports your journey in whatever passion or job or business you have, But when you come home or when you're with him, you stay in your feminine. Because if you come around with that masculine toxic energy, they'll accept it. And those are the people that are in the relationships where it's like, why isn't he asking to marry me or doesn't want to have kids with me? It's not that he doesn't want to get married or have kids. He doesn't want to get married and have kids with you,
Mm-hmm.
whoever that individual is. Because I've seen men in 5-year relationships and they get out of that relationship. The girl leaves because he won't marry her, and he marries somebody 9 months later. Okay, it's like so, and that's tough to swallow, right? So
It's
but
so
definitely,
funny. It's funny though because I know my tendency, like my block to vulnerability and my like femininity is I'll be feminine at first, and then it's like, oh, but I have to show you how much I work, and I have to show you that I do these things, and like that's like the past programming of me where it was like, bitch, tell me your daddy wounds, like what, like no, like it's like, will you accept this like hustle savage like da 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 side of me, and it's like yes, and for me, I do this because the gift of fucking trauma is I'm a savage. Like I love to go after things, and I actually just experienced this at Spartan Race, where it's like, I know I'm gonna fucking crush all of you. Like I know it. And the guy that I have a crush on is there, and I'm like, but can I crush you? Like, am I supposed to be feminine and like let you win and like do these things? And I was like, I can't let you do that. Like, I'm sorry, I just have to go win. Like, it's just like I can't. And I crushed it. And I literally like crushed all of them. And like after it, he like came up and he's like, I love that I got to see another side of you versus
yeah,
like that being my natural side that like, oh, this is what you see. It's like, no, I lead with my soft now. And you get a peek at my savage versus I'm gonna like I did both where it was like I'm gonna test you with my savage and like you keep up you little peasant like shit like that and then I'm dating little boys and then there was another side where it was like I'm only soft and I'm faking being the good girl and the nice girl and things like that versus what I talk about all the time is a soft savage. I'm like no, I lead with soft. But like I am a savage. I love my business. I love what I do. Like I'm a high performer. I'm a high achiever. Like that's what I love. But like I do want to be a wife and a mother, so I'm not going to lead with that. I'm going to give you quote unquote the wifey treatment. I'm gonna make your ass fall in love with me, and then we're gonna see the other side of things.
I think the you saying soft and savage. I
Hmm.
want to get you to kick it away from that. And I watched a bunch of your stuff today. I want to get you out of that because of this.
Why?
You can be feminine and then go into your girl group and be the savage of the group.
Hmm.
You can be feminine and be a stay-at-home mom, but then be savage to your kids and right, and anyone that crosses with it, right? And a savage shopper, right? And a savage trip booker. Like you can be savage in the gym still. So it's very more broad than just soft in there and you're dating, right? What we want is that peace and feminine. So
Hmm.
you can be hustling and make more money than your man. You have to understand when you walk in the door to him, though, your natural instinct is to drop it on him. You need to leave that metaphorical briefcase at the door. He don't want you to walk in there like, baby, I did this. You can express what you did for the day, but he wants you to walk in there like tickle him on the back of the neck and be that person for him.
Yeah.
Like, how was your day? He asked you, how was your day? And you communicate feminine, like that more energy there. So you can be soft, you can be feminine and a savage,
Yeah.
but like it's more like I don't think they conflict. You can be
Yeah.
soft savage to me, like me and me and your partner can wrestle, and she could try to beat you every time, or you could be play pickleball versus each other, and she always beats you. Like you can be savage, like you did. You ran and beat him in the race, but then you also can be on that date.
Yeah.
Be
And
that
you're like cute and you're like tickling them and you're like, all of a sudden I'm a little girl
they're not
again.
opposite. They're not opposite. They're different pieces to the same puzzle.
Yeah. But I think
So
a lot of the reason I have the soft savage is like a lot of us think we have to choose one or the other. And then we are like swinging the pendulum and doing the things. And it's like, no, like for me, I love being a leader in my life. I love hustling as hard as I do. I love the fact that I'm so in my business. I love that I go this hard at the gym. Like those are the parts of me. But like when I'm with a man, I forget that I have brain cells. Like I genuinely, I'm like, I don't know how to do anything and I just love being a girl. Like it's like these types of things. And it's like, they're like, oh, okay. Like, and but it's like that fun part where it's like, oh, when you actually heal your shit, you can easily do that because you actually trust the man to then lead you. And I think that's what a lot of women struggle. I know I struggled with that, where it was like, I don't trust myself because my picker was broken and I picked a bunch of fucking idiots. Anyone that's listening to this that is my exes, you're not idiots. I have so much love for you. But like I picked people that weren't at my caliber, but like my picker felt like it was broken. So therefore I had to put on this like savage fucking protection versus I trust myself in who I pick. Therefore, when I'm in the presence of a man that I'm picking, I soften. Like it just happens naturally that it's just like I love being a girl. I love letting you do things. I love not using a brain cell even if it takes an extra 5 hours. I don't care. You'll figure it out eventually. Like I don't want to think, and if I have to give up the fact that I'm a control freak in every aspect of my life, I don't want to do that in my relationships. I don't want to do that in my dating life at all anymore. It's like genuinely being like you steer the ship. I will tell you my standards and my, you know, parts of myself because of the way that I carry myself, but I'm not going to sit here being like, I'm going to do it all and I'm going to test you
Yeah.
and watch how much money I can make. And it's like, stop doing that.
I'm even seeing this um, in my current relationship that a real man's gonna ask you, like you're not gonna feel like he's gonna like the submission submitting to your partner and the person leading. A real leader is gonna turn to his queen and ask, and it's something that like it's I'm trying to get more used to in this current relationship
Mm,
is like, hey, what is your thoughts, right? Like, I'm the financial provider for us, but like you still should ask your partner, like, hey, what do you think if we do this, right? Outside of business, like
mm,
how you hustle in my business is one thing. But like, hey, we're gonna do this. What do you think? And I think that this submission masculine role that they forget to see that like when a man's worthy of submission, he's also a sort of man to ask the person, right? It's
mm.
like I'm the leader, but by all means, like I kneel to my partner all day long, right? Because it's the love of my life, it's the person I want to marry. It's like there's no like you can have that energy outside, but like when we're at home, like I'll give her whatever she wants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so that's what I think that connects um, you the right partner for you. You're not going to have to tell them what you require,
Mm,
right? Because it's basic stuff, like right, like I'll do anything for her because I know that she'll never make me do anything that goes against my values and my beliefs, right? And so it's easy when you have like because God no what God sets the standard.
mm,
Whatever spiritual aspect somebody is, but God sets my standard. There's no opinion. It's in the Bible, right? It's very simple what I need to do and how I need to treat her. Um, and then from that, it's just a little bit
mm,
perspective for her, but things are very simple. So you don't need to tell him any requirements. There's gonna be a man that's gonna just walk out one day. He's gonna open your door for you, and he's gonna text you, "Hey, I can't. Although I'm not seeing you this weekend, I want to send you a care package, right? And just sends you shit, right? And the man that just buys you a gift and brings it home to you, that man's there. So you want to set those standards. Like honestly, you're probably in your mind wherever your standard is on things, it's actually below than with a man that'll come.
mm,
I know my current partner in some aspects of our relationship. She's like, I didn't know that this type of man was like out there. Like they are, and obviously, again, we still have room to grow. But she's like, I didn't know that there's a man out there for me like this. That'll just
mm.
be obsessed with me. I'm obsessed with my partner,
Yeah.
right? And so, um, it's like even what you have as your standard, or your listeners, or people that watch podcasts, like there's a guy that's going to go above and beyond, and honestly, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. You're like, well, what's he want? Like, wait, is this a natural lead?
100%.
Like, what do you mean he just texted me and asked me if it was okay? Because that's my point. Like, it's okay if he does that, and just some people are going to just be on a higher standard than you even have.
Yeah. I think that's a good leaving off point. That's so good. Thank you so much for coming on and giving your time and all the things. Is there any last words you feel like the listener needs to hear that we didn't cover?
Um, I guess it's always right to do the right thing,
That's a good
even when
one.
somebody's done you wrong, and that's someone does them wrong. It's like just in a relationship or somebody you're dating, like it's okay if something. Yeah, there's more to it than we see, or we see somebody happen to somebody, the reaction they
Mm,
give you, or how they do, or like when you ask two people that broke up, right? Like you can get people to empathize with both situations. Even the guy that cheats, he's like, well, this isn't this, and his guy friend's like, oh yeah, it makes sense, right? But like, so there's 2 points to every story, and neither one's wrong and neither one's right. It's the way they saw it. I did this because she did that, and I felt like this, so I went and did that, and it just doesn't make sense. So
Mhm.
just do the right thing, and keep tunnel vision in your relationship or your values and your boundaries. It's difficult. Like don't let what somebody else does affect that. Right?
Mhm.
Like my current partner may do something and I may take it like a certain way, but like it's not wasn't meant that. Right? Maybe an insecurity comes out or a trigger comes out, trauma, and may I react to it. No, just keep the focus, right? Like if you love your partner and you're with them, you want to marry them, like you should trust them. You should like she's my future wife. I shouldn't be insecure about anything that she does because what do I like that contradicts believing in something like that. Like she's like it's a contradiction of what you want out of the outcome. So you got to manifest it. You got to keep it. You got to keep tunnel vision on the prize that you want, and you know don't worry about the small stuff.
That was perfect. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much for your time and your wisdom. Always, not even just on the podcast, but always looking out for my little chicken nugget self. Where can our listeners connect with you, learn from you, all the things?
I don't post a lot of I spend time with my wife now.
Yeah,
I don't post any content about business or anything anymore. I'm in my daddy era. Don't talk to the kids. But
that's
my
true.
it's Michael Perez on Instagram. I have my own name handle. So
Yeah, it's a bunch of him and our girl. We love to see it. It
yeah.
makes me so happy. Well, thank you so much. And all the things in between. Anyone that is listening, make sure you take those sexy little thumbs of yours. You go, you share your thoughts and write us a review and share this with anyone that it'll tickle their heart.
And
Thank
there's way
you.
more to Laura than you guys see on this podcast. It's a lot deeper and wider.